I think I just unmuted myself. Good afternoon, or I should say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I am starting a little early so people can pop in, and still getting acquainted with Zoho myself. I think I just want to press that button. Okay. So there's that. And then, oh, I am sharing my screen. Excellent, excellent. Great. So we're going to give a few moments for people to trickle in. I'm currently seeing just myself as an attendee. I think I've set this up correctly. We shall find out soon. Attendees. See something over here. So we got another minute before we start. You know, I thought I wanted to do that. Maybe I should do that. If you're watching the recording, you could probably just skip over to when the screen says 1 o'clock. That's when we'll start. Down in the bottom right corner, so pretty soon here. I am not sure that I have this set up entirely correctly. It is possible that no one is interested in watching this, and that's okay, because I know a lot of people are going to be watching afterwards. I suppose we've started. Maybe I'll just wait another 10 seconds for signs of life elsewhere. I hope I did this correctly. Attendees. Yeah, so I saw that we had 30 people who bookmarked the event. I know that that's obviously not representative of the number of people who are going to show up, but I would have expected at least one. And as you guys can see, oh, there we go. All right, we finally got someone. Hello, Bernadette. Hello, Aaron. Okay, this is making sense now. For a minute there, welcome everyone. I see people trickling in. I wasn't sure for a moment there whether I had set this up correctly or not, but maybe I will wait just another 30 seconds or so to see who all's coming in. While we're waiting just a little bit, I'm going to fire off this little QA first post. So definitely, if you guys haven't been doing this yet in your Zoho meets, I want this to be as interactive as possible. I can't hear any of you guys. I think I see, oh, that's my Q&A. I think I see, never mind. Yeah, that was mine. So like I said, like I was saying, I want this to be as interactive as possible. I can't hear anybody, but I know people tend to have quite a few questions when it comes to this subject matter. So definitely use the Q&A liberally. If I don't get to your question during the chat, I will be happy to try to follow up the best I can. I think there's probably a good chance I will have contact information to follow up with, but I'll probably just go ahead and get started. I just want to start by saying, really excited to do this. This is Omnisearch and Bask is something I've been working on for a long time, and I was invited to give this chat. I actually didn't participate in this event last year, didn't know it existed until 2 weeks ago, and I'm pretty excited to chat. I think the idea is so cool that we have a day really just to celebrate bubblers and all things bubble, like learning, just show and tell, demonstrations. And I think the fact that this event exists, I think, is such a testament to just how cool the bubble community is in, I mean, it's probably one of the best internet communities I've come across. Everyone's just so helpful and for the most part courteous. And I just really appreciate the community. And I'm happy to be participating. So this is an hour session about Omnisearch again. So it's a plugin that I developed to accelerate search in Bubble. And it's also about Bask, which is a plugin. It's not a plugin, it's a VS Code extension that I created to accelerate Bubble plugin development. So if you're not here for either one of those things, you're in the wrong place. But also feel free to hang out. Like I said, just a few notes. I will be popping back and forth between the Q&A tab here. So again, for those people who just rolled in, definitely feel free to go ahead and use that. So let's get started. So Omnisearch is something that I started working on about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And it was the sort of born out of the fact that Bubble really struggles with searching lots and lots of records really, really quickly. And I'm talking full text search, maybe doing complex geographic boundary type filtering. It's just something that Bubble really struggles in. Bubble's really good at giving us no-code community a very flexible platform upon which to build like a ton of different ideas. And one of the trade-offs with that is that their database, while they can definitely fetch like a single record, say you make a page, you set the data type of a page to a user or a listing or any number of things, you can normally open up that single page very quickly. One-off fetches and are normally very quick, and that's fantastic. But when it comes to full text search on Bubble with advanced filtering capabilities, it just struggles. And if you're in this chat, you probably, I probably don't need to sell you on that pain point. That's probably very obvious to you. And I had a number of clients who had been struggling with it and really just needed to benefit from a search engine. And so Bubble is not a search engine. Bubble is just like a very compelling, abstract way to make apps. And they have a database under the hood, but it's not a search engine. And on the contrary, there are tools out there like Algolia, TypeSense, Omnisearch, and a few others that are purpose-built databases for searching millions and millions of records using fuzzy search very quickly and returning results that match any keywords that you might have mistyped into a search bar. So I figured, hey, I have all these clients. I was rebuilding these integrations with Omnisearch, I should say with TypeSense and Algolia so many times that I decided to take basically all of the learnings from about a year of re-implementing this half a dozen times for different clients and just bake it all into a single plugin that just works really, really well with Bubble. And so that's what I did. And just switch over for any questions. None yet, no worries. And today we're going to be reviewing how it works. And I sort of already gave you the intro. You've probably read that feature list. Oh, by the way, all of the tabs that we're going to be going through here. So about the first half of the chat is going to be dedicated to Omnisearch, the second or so half to Bask. And in any case, I'm going to be going through all these tabs that you see up here. If you want a link to and want to follow along and open up the actual links that I'm on, you can go ahead and go into the Q&A, click on that forum post, and here are the links that we're working on. I see somebody already did that. So that's how you can access these and follow along. So I'm just going to get straight into it, like show me how it works, right? So people have been wrestling with this problem for years, literally years at this point, maybe a decade at this point. So we've had multiple sort of approaches to try to fix it with a native approach. And over here, if you click on that link, it's not obvious necessarily that it's a link, but you can see like I'm showing you what I'm doing in the Bubble editor to implement this approach. This is documented in the forum. So I took this and I sort of implemented it to do a search here in this vertical to show, to do a search against 3,000 results. There's also the infamous ZQ fuzzy search plugin, which if you click on that, I link and show people this is the plugin I'm using to essentially run search against these to produce these search results. And then over here in the second two columns are doing the same thing, but with the plugin that I developed, Omnisearch. So you have the TypeSense flavor of the Omnisearch implementation, and it's going to return these listings, and the Algolia flavor. And you'll actually find, I'll show you in a moment. Actually, I can just show you right now. When you implement that, where is it? Here. When you implement that, this is what it looks like to actually implement that. Switching between the two is almost as simple as just selecting the dropdown. There's some minor syntactical changes you need to make over here to make that switch over, but offering both in one makes it really simple to basically let people shop around. And if they ever change their pricing or whatever, instead of spending a day trying to rip out your old integration and switching over to the new search provider, either from TypeSense to Algolia or Algolia to TypeSense, you can do it. You can do it in an hour. I've done it before. So I'm just going to run some searches. So I'll just pop in Algolia. You can see that that came really quick. That came really quick. That, for the most part, came pretty quick. And this guy's still working over here. I don't know what's going on there. Is it ever going to, is it ever, oh, look, it finally works. So this is a bubble native integration of running search. You saw it right there just now. It probably took 8 seconds for that to return any results. Fuzzy search was faster than that, but significantly slower than these two. I'm going to do something though, because we're actually only, if I clear out, actually before I do that, I'll also demonstrate that we can do, there's filtering capabilities. So you can filter between whether it's open source or not, premium. I'm actually not sure why it looked like it didn't work. You can do, categorical based filtering, these sorts of things. Let me zero those out. So I'm only showing the first 500 for the ZQ fuzzy demo. Let me bump that up to the full amount. Now I'm going to write Algolia again. Notice I just typed into that search bar, but the page was locked for a minute there. Nothing changed, right? That's because fuzzy search for 3 to 5 seconds in this case was downloading all of the records associated with plugins in our demo so that it could then do its magic and run its fuzzy capability against these things. So I can now do toolbox. Now that's fine. Now that it preloaded everything, it's working very quickly. What's another one I can do? Literally so many things. Mapbox. But I'll show it one more time. So I'm going to reload the page because it's kind of easy to miss. But in short, the reason why ZQ fuzzy search, why our page freezes when we try to load a bunch, when we try to search a bunch of things with ZQ fuzzy search, is because it literally needs to download. See, I'm typing. It's locked. I'm typing. Nothing's happening. It's frozen. Typing. Still typing. Now I'm going back. See, it's been locked for what, 5 seconds now? Maybe 10. Go back and go toolbox. So there was a period of lock there. Now there weren't any search results on the right there because like I typed in DFFFFFFF and there's no matches for that. But there was a period of time where I was typing and literally nothing. I couldn't, like, you didn't see any characters show up in the toolbox, even though I was typing them. It's because the page is locked and ZQ, while ZQ is pulling down all those records to search them. There's no way around it. With ZQ, that implementation on a fundamental level needs all of the data that you're going to try to fuzzy search to perform a fuzzy search. And the only way to do that is to download it from your bubble database, bring it on page, and then run the search. That's going to drive workload unit consumption super high, and it's going to lock your page in cases. 3,000 search results. We saw our page locked for maybe 5 to 10 seconds. But if you're trying to do this with 50,000 records, again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here if you're sitting here in this talk, but it's going to lock your page for quite a bit longer. Whereas on the other hand, the way TypeSense works and Algolia, TypeSense, this might have been before the data dump of plugins in here. This is at 3,000. This is like 2 years old. There's no TypeSense plugin baked into there, but there is an Algolia one. I think the place now has like upwards of 6,000 plugins. So you see this is a little outdated, but the way TypeSense and Algolia work is, if we're circling back to like those technologies themselves, is they are on a fundamental level search engines. They're kind of like Google, but something off the shelf that like it's like your own personal Google, where instead of Google will go and crawl the internet and index pages and then make them searchable. In the cases of TypeSense and Algolia, what you can do is you can pump your own records into TypeSense or Algolia, and that would be essentially the crawling portion of what Google might otherwise do on the internet. You pump your own records into it, and then they make it searchable for you. And the searches come back very, very quickly. We'll do toolbox. Toolbox is already there. Anyway, I think you've seen it already. I can probably move along. So not only does it come back very quickly, but again, it works against millions and millions of records. So these search engines are developed specifically to scale. And so to sort of prove the point here, you'll see on our pagination here, we have 15,628 pages of insider trading records that I've pumped into a bubble database. There's no shenanigans here. I'm going to show you the actual data. So here's all the insiders. And by the way, I see someone's already here. This is open. So this app, I've set it up so that as I add new plugins, or people can come and see all the demos, see the data for themselves, and see how I implement things. And you're going to notice that there's a lot of empty things here. That's not so much because they're empty. What am I trying to say? So like all of these records have CIKs. Should I say this one? If I click a lot of these, say all of the records have this thing called a CIK, which is an identifier. And they also have like a person's name. So I must have missed that. Where's that one? Company. Company is the name for a person. So all of these records have these values here. And then these are what I use to populate charts. But if you see, 250,000 records there. So without further ado, I'm just going to type in MUSK, and you see, that's embarrassing. What's going on here? Why is Musk not coming up? I don't know what just happened now. Did you see that? I had to like backspace to bring Musk up. Let me do Warren for like Warren Buffett, or even Buffett would be better. I mean, you got Bryant Warren, they do it in backwards. So Buffett is sort of the Buffett Susan, Buffett. There's Warren Buffett. Fun fact, there's two different Warrens. There's two different Warren Buffetts in the SEC's database for insider trading. You think there's like, well, I won't get into it, but that was something that confused me at one point. So yeah, it searches it pretty quickly, as you can see. I mean, you're seeing those updates happening in real time. Something that a lot of the existing, so I guess there's a question that one should ask, which is why build this if Bubble actually has a native Algolia implementation that you're eligible to purchase if you're on the professional plan. So I think if you're paying what, 120 or 140 plus a month, maybe it's 160, I forget. So they have that native Algolia integration, as well as there is a zero code. We saw it a bunch of times here while we were searching here, Algolia. There's a zero code implementation of Algolia. There's a couple implementations of Algolia search, actually. Why build this one? Well, not only does the native Algolia integration, not only is it super limited in terms of the fact that it can only search text. Like you can't search numbers, you can't search option sets, you can't search geographic addresses, you can't filter by geographic addresses, you can't do any of that, which is kind of wild. It doesn't obey privacy rules. And that's also the case for the native, or I shouldn't say the native, but the Algolia plugin developed by Zero Code. No plugin that I knew of at the time, and I think to this day, implements a fast search for Algolia or TypeSense, or either one of those on their own, while preserving privacy rules. So I'm going to demonstrate how this works. So tap the button below to unlock your current user session. This will shift us, the user, from the everyone else privacy rule to our unlocked user rule. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what we should see, the page is actually going to reload. And then it's going to scroll down. And you're going to see now that we have this red secret information that we couldn't see before because it was hidden behind a privacy rule. But now that we've been shifted into this new user, or so actually, I think we're like technically a signed in user. Now we can see that secret information. So Omnisearch is the only plugin, to the best of my knowledge today, that implements search lightning fast while respecting privacy rules. And we're very flexible. The whole goal with implementing this was to like make this the most useful search plugin possible, like period. And so I wanted to expose as much capability that Algolia and TypeSense bring to us, while also making it as easy as possible to use from a bubble perspective. So, like I said, the native Algolia integration does not let you search or filter by geographic boundaries. Also, crazy sort of weird fact about Algolia. It's not necessarily the best search provider to use. There are some scenarios where TypeSense is better, both on aspects of cost and just flexibility. I'm highlighting this now because it turns out if you're using Algolia, and so Algolia only lets you filter by one address per record. If you have an application where you actually need to bind multiple addresses to a record, say you have a list of addresses, you just cannot do that in Algolia. It's kind of weird. I was kind of surprised when I saw that, but that's just a limitation of using Algolia. In TypeSense, not a problem. In any case, I'm just going to demonstrate the search working here. So we have TypeSense, both TypeSense and Algolia, even with Algolia's limitations of a single address per record, allow you to search by not just circle boundaries, but like any arbitrary looking boundary. So this is what, the way I implemented it is like I'm calculating isochrones. So an isochrone is this idea that if I take a point right here and I say, hey, what are all of the places you can reach driving, if you drive for 10 minutes, this shape is the answer. And so you might bump that up to this or that. And this isn't what I'm showing, generating these boundaries isn't Omnisearch specific. That's sort of out of the scope of Omnisearch, but you can make a Mapbox integration to do these isochronal calculations. You can do walking time, biking time, these sorts of things. And then what you can do is you can feed the input, or I should say the output from your API call to Mapbox. You can feed that isochrone, that geo boundary, to Omnisearch, whether again it's TypeSense or Algolia that you're using, and then we will filter and return only the records that are within that boundary. Again, for isochronal or radial filtering needs. So of course, when you're using this, you're going to need to keep you're going to need to constantly add, edit, update, delete records in Bubble. So we provide those capabilities. We have different servers. Oh, we'll have to fix that. We are currently not adding action. Oh, wait a second. So okay. Well, demos don't always go as planned, I suppose. So I need to update an SSL certificate, I suppose, for that. I don't know if that's on Omnisearch side or this particular demo side, but the idea is you add a quote, it'll oh, you know what? That might not even be an Omnisearch thing. It might be failing. I have this API that I'm integrating with called the quotes API, and what might have happened is the quotes API is not working. They don't get, I don't think anyone pays for it, so there's a good chance that that API is just turned off now. So maybe I might need to update that. But long story short, of course, we're gonna provide all of the actions that you need to update your Algolia records. I still see no questions, which is perfectly fine. If anyone wants to, sort of drive the conversation a little more, drop some questions in there. What I will say is some people, well, most of the time, people are going to discover Omnisearch already having a database full of records. So, while we do provide the add a record capability, create a record capability, update, delete, all of those things, it's gonna be more workload unit efficient and just time efficient to be able to bulk sync those. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just do that? I thought so. So I developed a way for you to do that. So part of the deal with getting Omnisearch is that you get this template right here that I'm showing you for free we provide it. You just right-click, copy it, paste it into your own app. There's a few changes you need to make just to plop it in there correctly, but it takes less than 5 minutes. And basically what will happen when you load this page is it will load all of your data types. You can, of course, password protect this so nobody else can see it. But, and it'll do it. Oh, maybe something I should say, right? So this is the page we're going to use to be able to select what to sync to Algolia or TypeSense. So you can go and select fields to sync and go through and check all these things, select them all. Fields to sort. You actually have to specify what you want to be able to sort. I recommend not syncing all fields because ultimately the goal is just syncing fields that you ultimately have to search. It's going to save bandwidth costs. It just makes things more efficient, that sort of thing. And then fields to facet and filter if empty fields. If you want to search on whether a field exists or not, these are not things that TypeSense and Algolia do out of the box, but there's some sort of little magic sprinkles of capability that Omnisearch brings to the table that that's a problem. It's a common problem. And we know of a common solution, a workaround for that. So, this tab is a workaround for the fact that they don't just do it out of the box, but we give you this tab, you select what you want to be able to filter, and we'll just make a new column for you that lets you do that kind of thing. What I wanted to draw attention to is Algolia, whether you're using Algolia, whether you're using TypeSense, you're going to be syncing records on an environment per environment basis. In addition to on a table by table basis. So you'll see the live is shown here, but you would do version test to show the sync template for the test version of your data. And so that's loading that environment. And so what's really cool about Omnisearch is that we make it very, very, very easy to sync data from any environment, not just test or live, but if you're on one of those higher scale plans where you have 10 or 20 plus environments, you can sync all of those, and they will live in harmony. And that's another one of those sort of behind the scenes little magic things that we do is we make it so that we make it very easy so that environments indices don't clash with one another, and you don't have to think about it. We just do it for you. And so then when you go to actually you come back in either production or version test, whatever environment it may be, our plugins, our visual elements will just automatically detect what environment you are in and switch to the correct indice in the background that your data has been synced to. So again, idea is just to make it as easy to use as possible. You do need to do a manual sync per environment that you want to work with, but you click a button and it's done. And we see typically, so the 250,000 records for the investor table, for example, that's something that can sync. I want to say it was within 30 minutes. That'll be done. It might have been less than 10. I honestly don't remember. It's been a while since I've done it. But the sync happens very quickly. And it's about as efficient as it could possibly be. So that kind of brings us to a section about costs. Oh, maybe not there yet, but this thing about context highlighting. So we have context highlighting. This is just a demo. I just click this button and it's showing you that we're able to highlight. Excuse me. I mean, if I say I don't know, that, we're showing you highlighting capabilities. We'll get to savings calculator in one moment. Before I do, I just wanted to show that we do have actually 2 or 3 other templates. I'm going to click that guy and this guy. So there's a lot of work that we've done in creating templates for people beforehand, just to get people up and running as quickly as possible. And 2 of those are our e-commerce template. Now I'm switching between these tabs, but as you'll see, they're actually different. So I'm saying dash TypeSense, dash Algolia as I switch between these tabs. Same thing, but if we say, I don't know if IKEA is a thing that'll show up, but Maybe IKEA wasn't a good one. It says I health. I health is obviously, what is that? Samsung. So you see how quickly it's updating. There's, I think, about 20,000 records in this particular example. Oh, I fibbed. It's 10,000, not 20,000. But that's part of why we expose the editor. I'm not hiding anything here. You guys can go in, see the data that backs everything for yourself, see how the sausage is made, so to speak. It's 10,000 records. Still, being able to do full text search on anything, you can't do this against 10,000 records in Bubble using native search or even ZQ. You can do it with ZQ, but you're going to have to download all 10,000 of those products to do it. So I'm just going to click around a little bit. So we have our faceting capability. So facets are a little confusing. What is a facet versus what is a filter? But if you recall, there's this tab here where you can select fields to facet. And so let me just go to product, for example. So I would select all here, and to index and prep this data to use it from Algolia or TypeSense, I'd click on over here. And then the facets themselves are these things: category. Facet the records along the axis of category, of a brand, of a price, whether they offer free shipping or not, rating. And what enabling faceting is going to do is, you would sync this, and then you could do it. What it's going to do is it's going to really make it possible it's Algolia and TypeSense. They do their own math. They do their own thing behind the scenes to automatically generate these aggregate sort of counts of various things. So facets in a nutshell is going to allow you to make this like left hand kind of very elegant filtering menu for your users. What's really cool too is that you can actually search facets as well. This is not something that's hitting your Bubble database at all. This is hitting it straight from Algolia or TypeSense. So if I was to do Samsung, that's all happening very quickly, coming straight from Algolia or TypeSense. Let's circle back. So savings calculator. So maybe there's two things I'll do. So I'll say just a little bit more about how Algolia works in maybe a more abstract way, and then that'll sort of dive tail into the savings calculator. So with Omnisearch, to preserve privacy rules, which is sort of a key constraint of this plugin and being able to use Bubble effectively. Oh man, I forgot actually to say one of the best things. I can't believe I did that. So if we come over to here, this is such a big, this was so important to me. I can't believe I've left this for last. One of the drawbacks of using any other of the search plugins, at least the ones that scale, is that what you end up getting back is JSON. You get back a JSON of an Algolia response, or you get back JSON of a TypeSense response, or it's like, I don't know, there's 10 different outputs, and you have to match which output belonged to which string input that was over here. I didn't want to do any of that. It's just messy. It's just not as elegant. It's not very Bubble-esque. I wanted the outputs of my search results to be easily usable, readily usable in the Bubble editor. So this is our Omnisearch element. This is what lets you do the searching. And maybe I should just spend 20 seconds on this. Is you would the way you use it is you specify the filter or your search provider, the data type you actually want to hit. Then your search query is going to be bound to this thing that we call the typing trigger, this is just an element we made that will reference your input and fire off the keys as the user is pressing it. So you can do it instantly. So if I was to put this down to 0, basically the typing trigger would every instant a key is typed, that'll get fed over into the Omnisearch plugin. If you want to sort of wait a few instant, just a split second for the user to type, SAM instead of S before you fire off the response, you would, bump this up to 120, that kind of a thing. So it's just, it's a way to save on, this is a thing that is a little annoying about that new, there we go. Okay. It's just a way to save on calls to typesense and just, yeah. But in any case, so, you got your fields to search. So you're going to specify exactly what those are. You can pop in your filters. I could spend an hour probably talking about how this works. It uses JavaScript, but which can be a little scary to some people. But it is the absolute most flexible, most powerful way of writing any filter you want. And we have a deep dive in our documentation on how to set this up. We have extensive docs. I've spent a lot of time writing these, and we walk you through how to set a low complexity filter. This is the absolute simplest filter you could ever write. We walk you through mid complexity. I'm actually going to come back up here. So I actually have these additional demos that you can link to that I didn't really cover, but these are things that we have the link to the editor. You can go to the editor, see the examples, how they work. That's the low complexity, mid, high-ish. And we walk through exactly how those things are set up, and all the way to a very complicated, this isn't even the most complicated thing you can do, but for the purposes of docs, that's what I put in there. And in any case, that's the filters section. And then you have some sorting capabilities and pagination capabilities. So that's how that works. But the point I brought this up, the reason why I brought this up was, at the end of the day, the thing that we're feeding into this repeating group is just the search results output from Omnisearch plugins visual element. That's it. And it just works. What we're returning is an actual bubble thing. It's not a JSON. It's not something you have to parse. It just works with the bubble editor. There's no magic. Like you don't have to gunk around with anything. You're just gonna reference the data like you would any other native data source. So I should have brought that up earlier. About this time, I should probably be switching over to Bask. So I'm just gonna review the savings calculator. So with the way Omnisearch works is, we've obviously talked a lot about Algolia being a thing, typesense being a thing. Those are independent services. And then we have Bubble. And then Omnisearch is kind of the glue between the two. So, we sync all of our data to either one of those services. We pay each of those services has their own cost. And then, we're also going to get a minor workload unit cost for keeping those records in Bubble, but we get the benefit of being able to retain privacy rules. In any case, what I will say, I don't have a workload unit figure baked into this. Someone suggested doing it. I think it's a really good idea, and I will work on doing it. But what I'm just going to say is, even this demo here, when I was creating this demo, like a year and a half ago, and this was after they switched over to the workload unit based pricing and gave us all of the logs and diagnostics for it, just loading this page over and over again while developing the demo, this ZQ fuzzy search, just like my workload unit consumption was like crazy through the roof. And I ended up, I forget exactly what it was. I had additional like placeholder searches. And when I put these two in, oh, wait, sorry. What I mean to say is, like, and you can see this yourself. If you were to delete, so let me just do it. Let me bring it up. I'm sorry, I'm talking a little bit in circles, but I got the logs right here. Might as well show them. Since we're speaking of costs, fetching data. Nope, that's not what we want to do. I don't think. Oh no, go back. Logs, blah, 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 blah. So we got search for Bubble plugins, search for Bubble, what is this? So you see that? That's going to the ZQ fuzzy search element that we drilled through. Look at that, 64% of our searches are for that. And then this is referencing our native Bubble integration. If we go to logs, 30, basically 100% of our search is between those two things. And oops, man, it keeps taking me back here. How do I so search for Bubble. So 100%, almost 100% of, am I in the wrong? Oh, almost 100% of our fetching data comes from the ZQ fuzzy search element. If we were to remove those, look at this. Look at this. 95% of our workload units comes from those two things. And yet we're doing the exact same search and getting results back faster using this Omnisearch element against typesense and this Omnisearch element against plugins. So for this particular, just to put a finer point on it, if we were to delete the ZQ fuzzy search and native bubble search integration, our search workload units over this time frame would go down by almost 95%, which is crazy. So, that's not necessarily the impact that you'll have on your particular, mileage may vary kind of a thing. But you can expect between 20, 30% reduction, maybe even more, depending on how heavily you've been using ZQ in the past. So yeah, just to sort of wrap it up, the last thing is, you know your number of records. I wanted to make it very simple to understand like what your projected cost can be. It might be the case Algolia works for you. Maybe typesense is better. You can pump in your records here, the number of searches per month that you might be running, because that's just kind of how they bill by, and then average record size, and it'll compute that stuff for you today. They have their own cost. We have our own cost as well, being the glue and the facilitator of those two things. We have recurring costs, so it's a monthly subscription, but we also have discounts for going annual. Currently at $885 annually. I don't foresee really raising that anytime soon, maybe ever. So that is that for Omnisearch. Now we know that this is a two-part talk. First half being Omnisearch, and then this thing called Bask. One second. So while making Omnisearch, actually okay, wait a second. We got a question here from just now. How would you approach searching for something amongst many different data types from a single search bar? For example, if it were a music streaming app and you wanted one search bar for artists, albums, songs, etc. Yes, that's correct. They would all be different data types. And actually, what I do in my applications, thank you for the question, Aaron. Thank you for the question. Great question. I actually get this one a lot. So what you can do for that, this example is actually very, it's very useful for answering that. If I would just click over, what's happening? I think I'm like locked up. I don't know why that's not switching, but maybe, okay, whatever. We're not gonna worry about that. What I was gonna say was, yeah, this page is like frozen. I'm gonna close that. What I was gonna say was, yeah, the short answer is actually you just, maybe I'll bring it back up. And while it's coming up, what you'll do is have essentially the same setup, but now just imagine this is artist, songs, album, that sort of thing, like you were saying. What you can do is actually set up a distinct Omnisearch visual element for each vertical, for each data type you want to search against, bind them all to the exact same input, and then bring the results back out. Now, you don't have to make them, from a visual sugar perspective, visual purposes or UI sugar, however you want to say it. That's kind of a weird phrase, but I think you understand what I'm saying. You don't have to have them independent side by side. You could stack them vertically so it looks more like a homogeneous feed that's coming through. The one thing I would say is that, yeah, if we come back over here. So all you need to do really is you would just switch, to insider or song or artist in your case. And then you would search that and present the records. Now, fundamentally, just because of how Bubble works, you can't, like a repeating group can't show more than the data from, more than one data type. So that's just a fundamental limitation. And we build around that, right? So you can have multiple repeating groups stacked vertically to sell the sort of idea that they're all in the same list. You can get creative with it. Let me see if there's anything else. There's nothing else for now. Definitely, if you guys are still thinking about it, feel free to ask any questions. Oh, yes, you would use multiple Omnisearch elements to do a search, not unlike the way we do it here. So, right here, if you see, we're doing, I just got an interesting noise in my ear. I don't know what that's from. Aaron, another. Yeah, I don't know what that was. So just literally the way we have it here. This one is literally searching typesense. This one searching Algolia all at the same time. It's real time. I don't necessarily advise using 2 different search providers at the same time, but you can. There's nothing stopping you. And just the same, you can, you would just run. I mean, you could just switch this to TypeSense, right? So this would be TypeSense. You would be searching user in this case, and then this would be TypeSense, and you'd be searching plugin in that case. Yeah. So if anyone else, Aaron, if you have any more questions, and if anyone else has any more questions about Omnisearch, feel free to dump them in there. I will circle back to them. We're going to be pivoting over to Bask. It's actually like 100% related to Omnisearch, but because I built Bask to build Omnisearch. Right, this is going to be the shift right now. So let me actually undo what I just did here, because this is actually a real demo that I use. Make sure this is Algolia. I think that's good. I hope that's good. That should be fine. Algolia bubble. Yeah, that's looking good. So great. So Omnisearch is a very complex plugin to make. I'm not going to say it's the most complex plugin that's on the marketplace. I don't know if that's true, but it is very complex. And part of the complexity comes from the fact that, there's these various elements of I wanted to make it, magical to use Omnisearch, that really necessitated having a server that lived in the background that could handle, basically carry out the duties of fulfilling or delivering some of that magic. So one of the magic things, excuse me again, I'm still getting over a little cold. One of the magics is being able to essentially sync records and update records against a bunch of different environments. And so you have, of course, live, test. You might have more than that. You might have 10 or 20. So what we do, there's a component where we have the bubble plugin and things that run on the page. We have SSAs that run in the background that will update records to Algolia or TypeSense. But to make sure that all of those things happen, we internally somewhere need to save basically these configurations, your sync configurations that we went over before, from the sync admin template. Where was that? These things. To make Omnisearch as streamlined, seamless to use, we save these configurations somewhere so that every time you create an action, update an action, that kind of thing, the plugin can fetch what your sync configuration looks like and perform the duties it needs to do. There's more to it than that. I'm not going to get more into the details than that because I don't know that anyone necessarily cares. But point is, it's complicated, and it requires us keeping data about your database schema. We don't store anybody's data. We don't care to. It would just cost us money as well. Why would we do it? We're not interested in it. But we do store data about your database schemas. So, what field is what data type, that kind of a thing. And so at one point, we don't use it anymore, but we actually had to integrate with AWS. They have this service called DynamoDB, and we were using that to store key value sort of entries about what each user's schema for each table, each app looked like, that kind of a thing. I should have probably drawn a diagram for this this part of the chat, but long story short, very complicated, and we needed. I mean, just developing this plugin was so painful. Bubbles plugin developer experience is just rough, and I had it. And so in pursuit of building Omnisearch, this is a big preamble, but basically in pursuit of trying to just finish this plugin, I decided I needed to stop working on it for 4 months and build a tool to help me finish building Omnisearch. Kind of nuts. Should I have done it? I don't know. We'll find out maybe if it's ever becomes worth my time. But it's a VS Code extension. I'm just gonna get straight into it. I built a VS Code extension. It's the first VS Code extension for Bubble, I believe. Period. Certainly the one that I'm aware of. And what it does, in a nutshell, is it solves the pain point of, hey, Bubble's plugin editor isn't really like. I'm just gonna completely switch over. We got some demos here that we're going to go through. So anyone, I'm sure a lot of us here have seen this page before. So this is the UI. This is the Bubble plugin editor. It looks quite a bit different than the Bubble app editor. But this is where you make plugins. This is where plugins are born. And you have the general tab. This is your title and these sorts of things, where you can define API calls, elements, actions, that sort of thing. So you use JavaScript at the end of the day to write plugins. If you're hanging out in the elements or actions tab, it's all JavaScript. And this is not a proper code editor. I'm not going to preach to the choir here, because I'm assuming some of you have gone through this, and there's no syntax highlighting, there's no linting, there's all of the tooling that JavaScript or any sort of web developer would normally have to author code just does not exist here. So what you normally have to do is you write it here, and you get no auto indenting or anything like that. So you can write it here and try to develop your plugin here. That's one way to go about it. I don't even know how to close this. I'm maximized now. How do I close this? We might be stuck here forever. I'll just reload the page. I just had to press escape. I saw that now. So you can edit in this editor, or what you can do is open up VS Code, which is what everybody uses to write code in. And hey, that's actually our code for our backend. There, I'll just close that. And you can use a proper editor for authoring code. For those of you not as familiar with what VS Code is, or writing code in general, I know we're coming from, this is a no-code community. It's all great. VS Code is to writing code as Microsoft Word is to writing essays. So this is a suite for just making it as easy as possible for people to write code. And so what a lot of people will naturally do when they're creating a plugin, this is what I was doing, what I was making Omnisearch, was, you would actually, let me pop open, this is full usage. Let me open up this. This is an example. So you would take this and you paste it over here. You do your development. Does it work? Does it not work? I don't know. Copy it, come back over here, paste it, switch over to your page, refresh it, see if it worked, didn't work. Okay, come back, come over here, make your edits, copy, paste, switch, copy, paste, switch. Did it work? I don't know, refresh. Awful. It's like 15 steps, 15 tiny, mindless steps, but they add up when you're trying to rapidly prototype. So I thought, hey, there's got to be a better way. And there is. And the better way is Bask. I'm actually going to close VS Code, because actually, quickly, again, for those who are non-coders, again, VS Code is to developers what Microsoft Word is to writing essays. There's a new editor called Cursor, which I just clicked on over here, which is based on VS Code. It's the same thing, but it's got AI built into it. So you can actually, let me just show the main demo, because I haven't even shown Bask working yet. So let me just pause for a second there. We got 9 minutes left, so I'm going to try to not stumble too much over myself as I try to correctly convey what's going on here. But here's the demo. I probably should have started with this 5 minutes ago, but hey, hi, this is Bask. Oh yeah, this page is using Bask testing, reveal this element. This is a visual element. There's really nothing going on. There's no inputs. It's not much of a visual element, but there's an output. And so this line of text here is outputting that visual element's output. It's called output, is the output. And I have that actually loaded right here in Bask. So if I say, hi, so this is the code for that visual element. And you can see, our output was called output back over there in the Bubble editor. It's, the way Bubble plugins work is we publish state called output, and then we feed whatever value should be published back to Bubble. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and say, this is very cool. And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to come back over here. And I actually I didn't refresh the page. We have a Bask plugin. It's a companion plugin to the Bask VS Code extension. There's a Bask plugin here that auto refreshes the page whenever a change has been detected. So you can literally just come in here, say very, very cool. You can make all the changes you want, press save. Bask behind the scenes is pushing, like it says, Bask could not build your plugin. I don't know why it's in build mode. Build mode enabled, build mode disabled. We might ignore that for now. And oh, look, it's already there. So you can just all day come in here and say, this is very, very cool. This is so awesome. And you can quickly, rapidly prototype. If you have 2 monitors, I mean, I'm not showing it right now, but here's that on the left, here's this on the right. Now, because I'm in Cursor, which Bask is compatible with Cursor because again, it's based on VS Code, I'm going to say Control K. And I'm going to unlock some AI capabilities. Maybe I'll do Control K here, and I'll say, what should I say? Tell the user. I don't know if this is going to work. Tell the user that Bask is not for consumption. I don't know. I'm literally making this up. So submit. I don't know if that's going to work. So I'm just going to press Control Accept, Control Save. Did it work? Warning: Bask is not for consumption. Please do not send. See. So that was just a really silly example, but the AI is baked into Cursor. I mean, it's using Claude, it's using ChatGPT, all the GPTs, they're all in there. You can switch between what you're using. At this point, this might be half a show and tell of Cursor as it is for Bask, but you can drop down GPT 4.0, Cursor small, all these things. Long story short, you now have an AI-powered way to write plugins that you can, using Bask, sync and rapidly iterate on plugins and see the outputs and see whether things are working or not. The last thing I'm going to say is so Bask comes with a few commands. I know we're short on time here. I'm going to switch back just in case somebody asks any questions. Nobody asked any questions. So I'm going to come back over here. And where was that page? There's that page. I don't know that we need that open. So I'm actually why did I need to build this for Omnisearch in particular? Let me at least answer that question before we sign off here. Omnisearch, like I mentioned, it actually uses AWS services in the background. It doesn't anymore, but effectively the same thing. So AWS, when you try to connect to AWS services, you have to use this library called Bato. And let me just switch over really quick. So we have 3 commands in Bask. I know I'm all over the place right now, but I'm just trying to cram this in. My apologies, everyone. Bask has 3 commands: Bask switch, plugin, pool, and publish. And I'm going to go ahead and hit switch. And what Bask is going to do behind the scenes is it's going to pull down all the plugins in my account. And it's going to ask me, hey, which plugin do you want to switch to? And I'm going to switch over to Omnisearch. I'm not going to show you guys too much of how the sausage is made here with the code. I actually had it already pulled down, but you'll see here at this bar, it's showing us what the current plugin that Bask is set to, and that's Omnisearch. So I'm going to turn on build mode. Build mode is enabled. And what that lets us do with, going back to AWS this and AWS that. So when you work with AWS, which this plugin does for server-side actions, here, let me show you some of these. Let me show you one of these, the create search record action. So here's my code. This is all the code for that create action. Lots of it. I got switches for, hey, is the user using TypeSense? Is the user using Algolia? Do we do this? Do we do that? I mean, all things considered, it's not that complex, but it does require, or it did require using something, a node package called Bato, B-O-T-O. In any case, basically, we needed these things called ES6 modules. And at least at the time, Bubble couldn't work with ES6 modules. I think it might still not work with ES6 modules natively. So there's no way to actually include. So if you go to like your SSA definitions here in the Actions tab, you would click something like this action uses node modules, and then you come down and then you tell it which ones it uses or not. At the time, you could never use ES6 modules with Bubble. So what you would have to do is run this build script, which I have right here. which would then look at all my code, all the code that looks at all my code. There's imports where it fetches the ES6 modules that were specific to integrating with Bata, which is basically what lets us work with AWS services. It will pick out all of the relevant pieces of code and then bundle it up and send it over to Bubble. So if you don't do that bundling step, it's just not possible to develop Omnisearch. You just have Omnisearch doesn't exist without the bundling step, which is this right here. So this is our build script essentially. I'm going to do something. I'm going to actually say minify false. I'm going to do minify false. I'm going to press save, and we're in build mode. That should have just worked. So if I reload this page, you'll see how this looks like super garbled. When I reload it, it should actually look like something a human could read. And there it is. So this is the unminified code. That was just one of these attributes, one of these options. We have, if I set bundling to false, this just doesn't work. It fails. So I had to bundle. But then also so bundling is basically taking all of these packages, putting it into one script in one file, and then injecting that into our plugin action, and it works, right? But when I ran that a few years ago, it took the SSA with the bundling step and everything, it took 15 seconds to save a record from Bubble to Algolia or TypeSense. 15 seconds. Obviously, that was never going to work. So I needed to somehow prune away all of the code that wasn't relevant to the action running, to reduce that 15 seconds of runtime down to as low as possible. And it turns out there's this thing called tree shaking in coding that allows you to do that. And it's literally this. So you can press true or false to either tree shake your code or not. And when I enable tree shaking, by virtue of Bask doing what it does and offering a build mode, it'll tree shake, or in other words, remove all the unused bits of other node modules that you're pulling in for your plugin. It'll remove all those unused bits, and at the end, to effect, it'll just upload just the bits of code that are needed to run your script. Period. And that dropped the 15-second SSA execution time down to 2 seconds. And I should probably ramp up there, but all told, it's what made Omnisearch possible to build. I just wouldn't have been able to continue working on it without developing Bask. Both of these products, both of these things are products. You can get API keys for them today. We have extensive documentation for them. Go over to docs.science.io to learn more. We left a bunch of links in the forum, which are available here in the Q&A tab. And thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. Q&A. Have a good one.